I love the Italian anthem.
Yay.
It's so great. Welcome back to Gears and Glory. If you couldn't guess, we're recapping Imola today with that incredible piece of music.
I made a post about, I do my fast facts on Instagram, and my caption was just, you want me to say her full name? Because the full name, let me see if I can remember it off the top of my head. The Emilia Romagna del Made in Italy del something else Italian Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
She has a long name.
Her full government name?
Her birth given name? Yeah. I'm not saying that whole thing. That's Imola, baby.
The biblical name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, lots to recap. Before we even get into anything in the weekend, a lot of teams brought upgrades. Like 8 teams, all but 2 teams brought upgrades. I have them written down. Shout out F1 TV. I get the majority of my intel from like Laura Winter specifically, basically.
F1 TV.
So Haas had a rear suspension, new floor, and a new diffuser. Mercedes had a new front suspension, new engine cover, and new front wing. Red Bull had a new rear suspension and a new side pod, which we can get into how that all played out. McLaren, also we can get into how this played out. McLaren had 3 new pieces. They had new front suspension, new back wing, and then a new lower B wing, which is like right below the back wing, like on the actual, like almost coming out of the chassis.
Yeah.
Alpine had a new engine cover and a new front wing. Aston had the most upgrades. So they had a new side pod, new floor, new halo, a new lower B wing, not the main rear wing, and a new diffuser. And
new
then I like don't know what the differences are. I might have to see if they did a tech talk on F1 TV about it.
Yeah.
Because they have they'll break down the new upgrades, or like what's working, what isn't, and like why things are the way they are. The new halo was like the most shocking to me. Like obviously conceptually the halo is still there, but I wonder if I'm sure they've done something to it to make it more aerodynamic or lighter without losing like the integrity or strength of it. Because obviously we'll get to like why it's so important in crashes, especially this weekend. But you don't hear that one often.
Like the curvature of like the shape of it rather than most.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It feels like it would be a really easy piece to fiddle with.
Yeah, let's compare it with the Red Bull 24 and see how similar they look and how much Nui has impacted that.
Seriously. So the last 2 teams that brought upgrades were VCarb. They had a new side pod, new floor, and Ferrari had a new back wing and a lower B wing. So pretty minimal on the same area. 8 teams had upgrades. I don't exactly know what all of it means, but it sure seems like things played out in one way or another, especially for Red Bull. But there wasn't a ton going on in free practice. Let me see. McLaren was investigated for tire cooling. That was the weekend prior. That was Zach Brown's funny tire water. It seems like McLaren has like a tire cooling system that they are just simply leagues ahead of everybody else in terms of how they're able to control the temperatures. And it might be some like material with like a specific quality to it that is like temperature or thermally like reacting or acting in one way or another. I don't know, but they're doing something and they're doing a really good job about it.
Yeah, I think whatever they're doing, it's going to trickle down to the rest of the grid in not too long.
Yeah, well, and that's so interesting too about teams that are doing well, especially in terms of engineering. Like you can look at pictures and like, I'm sure nothing is like a black box of like nothing getting in, nothing getting out. But it's so interesting to ask the question of like, are they like slowing down in terms of how far ahead they are engineering wise, or is everybody else just catching up? Does that make sense? Of like, are they losing a step, or is everyone just gaining one because they're learning from them? So it's really interesting to see that game. I obviously ask this question every other episode with Williams of like, what is it?
Yeah.
Probably a combination of everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more that we see of Williams, the more confidence we have that it is kind of everything just falling into place, or everything lining up a little bit more than just one particular thing. But I mean, other than FP1, FP2 wasn't too crazy either. Carlos got a fine for speeding in the pit lane. Naughty boy. FP3, wasn't really notable
my
either.
note that I wrote down for this, I'm not sure if I accidentally hit like the microphone, like voice to text. So we don't know. FP3 didn't happen basically to us.
No notes from FP3.
It was practice. Everybody was doing their quali tests,
Yeah, I mean, it was I think midnight or 1 a.m. for me, so I didn't watch any of it. So I don't know what happened in FP3.
I clearly wasn't paying much attention. But we can get to kind of the more exciting or terrifying, whichever word you want to pick, parts of the weekend with quali.
Yeah.
Q1 had just like the most insane crash. Reminded me of Zhou's crash years ago, where the car flipped, tumbled, did a somersault, did the splits in the air. Like, it's genuinely terrifying. And that's why like it's so interesting that like Aston's messing with the halo, because it is such an integral part of the car, specifically for crashes like that, where like the car got air. That was so scary. That was genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. And like, obviously, because of how they sit in the car, like, if the halo wasn't there, he wouldn't have fallen out of the car. That's not what the point of the halo is. But one, it probably wouldn't have flipped the way that it did, because the halo provides, that extra kind of like space there where it can roll off and things can roll off and such. So that's the point of it, is it's kind of like a roll bar as well as protection for their head. But if the halo wasn't there, it's not like Yuki would have just, fallen out of the seat, but he probably wouldn't have flipped, and he would have just landed upside down. Like, he wouldn't have...
and then there's like...
able to get out of it.
The weight is on him, not the halo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the scary part. And like, it's honestly a little bit terrifying when we know the history of the track. Like, the Senna statue's there, like, this is not without its very heavy past. So whenever there are crashes, it's almost like Imola bites back a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little scary. And that crash was nasty. The fact that Yuki was like up and walking is a huge testament to like the safety engineering and how we're leagues ahead of where we were before. And thank God, like, something like that happens, and most of the time we're like, oh, it's okay, they're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was actually
used to be that way.
I missed the live of quali, so I was watching the recap, like watching the replay as I was getting ready that morning. And so I just had my iPad next to me and I was doing my makeup, and I heard that he crashed, and I was like in the middle of something, so I didn't look at it. And then when I looked, I just saw him walking away, and I was like, oh dang, like, poor Yuki, doesn't qualify very
too
well.
Bad out
whatever.
Q1.
Poor guy. Yeah. Too bad, so sad. And then they showed the car, and I was like, oh my God, that's insane. How did it sustain that much damage? And then they played the replay, and my jaw was on the floor, because I didn't expect him to get airborne and do a triple somersault backflip.
Yeah.
And then walk out of it.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Honestly, oh gosh, I was about to say something, and then it immediately exited my head. They played it so many times. Like, the amount of times that they played it in slow motion from every different angle, it felt like a post-mortem of like, part of me was like, stop showing it. It's actually scarier every time you show it, because I see something new that happened that could have killed him. If not for the halo, if not for the integrity of the chassis, or like the front portion of the car where like the driver's legs are, so their legs go all the way to the front. Like, God forbid something happens, there's a spark, there's a fire, that like Romain Grosjean moment. Plus, like, this type of, I don't know. I was just like, every time they showed it, I was just like, I can't, like, I couldn't look. It was genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. And then Franco also had a big crash as well. I did actually see something too that said that I always forget the name of this driver, but Franco crashed on the corner where Senna did, and Yuki crashed on the corner where another very famous driver sustained bad injuries or passed, can't remember, but they both crashed on historical bad juju corners.
Mm-hmm.
Franco crashing on Senna's corner is crazy.
That's a lot, because there's every single Instagram post about how they look similar, and they're both Latin American, and it's like, no.
Franco and Kimi are Senna looks-wise reincarnated. Together, they would make Senna.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, kind of scary how like the same face shows up outside of history, like outside of its context. Scary crashes.
Franco's crash obviously wasn't as bad as Yuki's, still a big crash nonetheless. But then because of Franco's crash, Ollie had a pretty bad exit out of Q1, Q2.
Right, because it was, the red flag was flying, and this was something where they showed it a million times in slow motion, and I was like, yes, actually this one I want to watch multiple times in slow motion, because what they were doing was they were watching Ollie's lap from the little pod on the top of the like right behind the driver, and they were trying to determine at what point Ollie crosses the checkered line compared to when the red flag flies. So, like, Ollie never got out of the car between Q1 and Q2. But then Gabby Bortoleto, who was going to be knocked out, also didn't get out of his car. So they were both like, who's going to stick it out? Like, who's going to tough guy this?
He was just at the end of the pit lane, which I think has also impacted what they did with Ollie. Because in every clip that I saw, Ollie crossed the line meters before
I agree.
The red flag lights went off.
I agree.
And it was called, but while they were still working that out, Gabby was just waiting at the end of the pit lane for Q2 to start, because he was like,
he said, I'm going to force your hand, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not knocked out in Q1.
I beg to differ. I actually made that. Ollie, see you later.
Yeah, seriously.
So, yeah, I think that actually had something to do with it, as well, because I reckon the stewards were like, well, he's done our job for us.
Me. I apologize.
Oh, I was like,
I gotta text to Mama and tell her that I'm recording podcast. Sorry, Mom. Love you, Mom. Sorry, I'm looking at quali results, and like, so what happened here? Okay, they said that Ollie's lap didn't count, so Ollie ended up being P9, starting 19th.
19th?
Right, because his lap would have put him 14th.
To Q2.
But if they said it didn't count, then he got his original time. Because I was thinking, I was like, it wouldn't have been so bad if it was like Ollie P15, like starting 15th, Gabby starting 14th. Like, that wouldn't have been such a big deal. But like, Gabby Bortoleto ended up starting 14th. So like, even better. And Ollie Raymond had to start P19. Not P20 only because Yuki had to start from the pit lane, basically. P20.
Yeah, yikes. I didn't realize that they, I don't know why I didn't realize. I think maybe I just forgot that they just kind of deleted that lap from Ollie altogether. So that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
But the qualifying fight for the top three was also very entertaining. I did enjoy watching that battle between the top four, so Lando, Max, Oscar, and George. I think they all had very competitive times, and I truly didn't know who was going to get P1.
Well, and that's something that's really interesting to me is like, I feel like so much of the conversation right now is, and I understand why, like there's the drama and the tension of Lando and Oscar both driving for the same team, but I feel like people are forgetting about Max, and also like egregiously forgetting about George. George has been on the podium almost every race. Like,
George has been a silent killer this season.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind Liv in like her new George Russell fan era. Like, I'm right there with her. Like, he deserves he deserves more hype than he's getting because he's getting no hype. I'm like, why
No.
are we forgetting about this? Kimi
Yeah.
Antonelli who right now, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I saw I saw a video of Toto talking to Kimmy and George on FaceTime, and
Yeah.
he was giving Kimmy all of his like kind words and encouragement and, you know, props for his first home race, and was
Nurturing.
really hyping him up,
Mm-hmm.
saying how, you know, it's going to be amazing regardless of the result, and he's like, should be proud and all of this stuff. Toto finishes his rant and George just goes, where are my words of encouragement? And Toto essentially said, like, you're an adult, calm down, you don't need none of that. Very eldest son vibes, very oldest child vibes right there from George and Toto.
Yeah.
But it made me laugh because George was like, well, what about me? Do I get this at my home race? And Toto was like, you've been doing this years now, George, you're fine.
No, oh my God. Poor thing. We believe in you, George. We do.
We support you, George.
Yeah. Well, as much as all of the prep they could have gotten, then we get to the race. So this race was Red Bull Racing's 400th race, which was crazy once we get to the results.
Yeah, I actually, before we get into the race, I'm shocked at Red Bull's performance over the weekend, because Imola is historically not Imola per se, but these type of tracks are not particularly strong with Red Bull. With their, because they always last year they brought the wrong wing, or was that Monza?
It
was one of the Italian Grand Prix. But
I remember there being
similar.
a Dremel.
Yeah, but they're both similar tracks, you know, nonetheless. But
yeah,
it isn't. When I think of Red Bull dominance, I don't think of tracks like Imola.
No, I mean, arguably, I think of the Red Bull Ring, but that's just because it's called
the
Red Bull Ring.
Yeah. But yeah, so Red Bull's 500th. Whoa, 400th.
Give it a little bit.
Yeah, and what a race it was for Red Bull. You can talk about the start because I'm too butthurt.
Yeah, sorry. I'm still kind of, I just want both drivers to have fun. No, the start was crazy. So if you watch it, if you didn't, if this is your way of recapping, it was insane. So Oscar starting P1, Max is starting P2, George is starting P3. George gets an insane start. Yeah. George up on the straight before turns 1 and 2, that's like a little squiggle and then like another, like a little chicane. George is like ahead of Max. And Max just says, actually, have you considered that I should be in front? And kind of borrows Oscar's move from Bahrain maybe, or Saudi, where he did a really crazy pass on the outside. Max said, actually, I did take notes. Thank you so much. Passed on the outside and actually drove away with it. Safety cars included.
Yeah.
So it was an insane thing to watch. My respects to his talent.
It was an incredible move. And we know my love for Oscar. I was watching the race with my sister, and initial reaction was like, no, how dare you? Leave him alone. And then I was like, it got maybe 2 turns later, and I was like, that was a really good move. I was like, it
takes a second to simmer down for like the hurt to pass.
I'll give him his flowers. And to be honest, I felt how Oscar said he felt, where he was like, you know, it was just turn 1. I thought I could get it back. I turned to my sister and I was like, he's going to get that back. It's fine. It's fine. Great move, Max. I'll give you that. That was a great move. Oscar will get it back, though. I'm certain. That's not how it happened, but here we are.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I think by like lap 2 or 3, he was already over a second ahead. Yeah. And I was like, that was fast. Like, what is it, 2023 again? What's happening?
Welcome back, Red Bull dominance. Max Verstappen dominance.
Yeah, so I do, like, I'm really enjoying the season so far, specifically because it's no one's game yet. Like, yes, Oscar is in the lead now, but Lando is in the lead, but don't count Max out, and then don't count George out either, really.
No.
but I feel like, I don't know, as the season is maturing and we are having more races to get like more of a context of who's doing well, it's crazy because opinions and performances can and do change weekend to weekend. Like I feel like every week I'm on here saying the same thing and then also
Yeah.
like the complete opposite of what I said last week. So nobody fact check me
Yes.
on anything because I'm just gonna change my mind.
Soph is flip flopping between a lot of thoughts and opinions
We'll
this
stand by
season.
and hear me out. Lance Stroll. He qualified well.
Both the Astons qualified well.
They were like really promising, and then I think they biffed it in the strategy during the race.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That was an L. But I stand by I stand by Lance Stroll's performance this weekend actually.
I think I think
Yeah.
pace wise they're not too bad. And their upgrades obviously really, benefited them on this track and
Yeah.
potentially might in Monaco as well. Considering
We'll
they did
see.
so well in qualifying.
Yeah, and that's a Saturday race for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll see how these upgrades kind of play out along with everyone else's upgrades as well, because I mean if everyone else upgrades themselves and they all get better, then Aston will probably stay where they are. Alonso is still on 0 points, so
Yeah, I actually had a note
big
that
group
said
there.
specifically to apologize to Liv's mom for that one.
Oh yeah.
That one's tough.
Oh yeah. None of us G&G girls, mums included, are having a good run this season so far. Well, I mean, I am with Oscar, but
Yeah, we like Oscar. We
yeah,
I don't think I can say alleged. I think like as a Williams fan now,
yeah.
testing that one out. Um, well, that was actually we'll get to when we get to the battles, but like it was a tough race to watch, but like I'm doing good as a Williams fan. I'm doing really bad as a Ferrari fan.
I You guys might be surprised by this because I've never called myself a Williams fan per se, but I've always been an Alex Albon fan. But
Mm,
I might be becoming a Williams fan altogether.
it happens to the best of us.
I'm
Case in point, right
I
here.
am loving them.
I
Um
mean, we know I love Carlos. I need to still get a screen cap of when I'm like staring into the distance, thinking
yep.
about something, and I get my Carlos Sainz eyes.
Yes, yes. I'll go back through a few
Oh
episodes
Lord.
and I'll find some guaranteed.
Yeah. I've got the
Guaranteed.
people in my life around me, just like making sure that they know to like take a picture so we can post it in like a comparison in the right angle of the one photo I've sent.
Yes,
But
I'm gonna do that actually.
speaking of
Um,
Carlos, and then speaking of Charles, and then speaking of how being a Ferrari fan kind of sucked this weekend, Charles was a menace. He had his elbows out this race. It was crazy.
he did, he did. I actually have this screen grab that I want to show. Pushing Pierre onto the dirt
Yes.
was an insane move, but it did make me think of one particular thing, and I need everyone else to agree with me on this.
Yeah.
This was Pierre.
No.
The shot of Pierre, I'm gonna have to overlay it or something
Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
when I edit. But the shot of him sliding through the gravel sideways with all of the dust following him, this is all I thought of. I turned to
Yeah.
my sister and I said, Lightning McQueen, welcome back. Welcome to Formula One, I guess, as a
I
Frenchman.
know. Oh my God.
Um
Yeah. Randomly French.
welcome back, French Lightning McQueen.
Fine. It's like the
Um
book trope, like died and came back wrong, except it's died and came back French. Good Lord.
oh boy, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, on to the topic of Albon though. He and Charles were battling forth for a good
For a
while.
long time.
Yeah,
For a really long time.
yeah, which was good. It was a really good battle. And I think they were very respectful with each other as well.
I don't know. I think in the actual racing it was. I think there was sass towards the end when it was like called into question and being noted and then investigated of like whether or not Charles's pass on Alex actually like counted.
Yeah.
Because it felt really now that I'm thinking about it, literally we're realizing in real time that it was like really similar to the move he made on Pierre. So like, why is this one being investigated when the Pierre incident had no penalties? But then it's like you have to weigh the risks and like the net damage it could do, because P5 versus a 5-second penalty, like where that could have put him, especially after safety cars and everybody got bunched up, like would have hurt a lot more. So like, I understand concept, like my head understands it, my heart does not. My heart does not understand that. My heart
never understands a lot of Ferrari, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, I don't really want to talk about pit strategy. I have like a note here about like how people pitted early, and then we can talk about how people like turned it into a 2-stop because of the safety cars and everything. Whatever.
Sorry, strategy. But the strategy for this weekend for almost every single team was shocking. Not necessarily at the fault of their...
They're coming for you.
Okay.
Anyways.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think that anyone really nailed the strategy this past weekend. Not necessarily through any fault of their own, because there were things out of their control, like the VSC and the safety car, but I feel like it was almost like everyone was kind of chasing their tail and being like, oh, VSC, let's pit.
You know safety car, let's pit. Feels like the, like, okay, like the, I don't know what the word is. Like the main thing that messed it up, there's a saying or something. I keep thinking of the princess and the pea, so I'm like the pea under the mattresses, but that's not something people say. The thing that like threw a wrench in it and everything, I think, was the fact that like the soft was unusable, which made for a much more exciting, like it made strategy interesting, because then we get the retirements, and we'll talk about the retirements. We get strategy attempts, like Shaw saying, can I go back on my old mediums?
Yeah.
Like that's unheard of. What the heck was that? First of all, I think you should let him do whatever he wants. Second of all, if it's a bad idea, don't you dare.
No.
But that, like, to consider, like, that's not been an option. That's not, like, and I think you don't do that.
And I think they said it a couple of times. It's not news to anyone that the soft was a new tyre that they were testing out. They were testing out the C6. And the medium was last year's soft, which last year was the preferred tyre. So it makes sense that people preferred the medium, but I feel like that speaks volumes to the C6, and that there is quite a lot of development remaining with that specific tyre, at least for this track anyway, because if it doesn't work at Imola, I don't really know where it would work. Potentially.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Because it didn't really even work during qualifying.
No,
it's not even like it was a long race tyre, but it didn't, the mediums were faster. People were getting faster laps on the medium.
Well, yeah, and so then you like lose a whole compound of a tire to like do any sort of run with, because it's like then it doesn't even make sense to go do a run with it, like a long run during practice to like see the data. Like it doesn't make sense to use it at all. So you use up all your other tires for the weekend, and then you get the opportunity to pit a second time, and you're like, well, we have old ones, how about that? You know, like it doesn't make sense.
Exactly, which I think is what happened with Oscar, is by the end of the race, he didn't have a fresh set, so he actually couldn't pit under the safety car. And then that's when... and it wasn't team orders at all. McLaren did let them race to an extent, but...
I want to talk about this. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, I do want to address the retirements really quickly, because like if we don't talk about them now, I will forget to talk about them. So we had Esteban Ocon. It seemed like he had a power unit issue. He had a VSC, pulled over in a similar area to where Kimi Antonelli, who it seemed also had some sort of, I don't really know. It seemed like power unit issue to me. I did not follow up on that.
It was kind of powered down. I don't think it was upshifting. I think he came around the corner.
It was happening on the uphill too.
Yeah, and then I think because you could hear him downshift, and then suddenly when he came out of the corner, there was just no revs. It's just like it went into neutral, and then he just kind of like.
Yeah. So for me, it was interesting what the basis for their deciding what's a VSC versus what's a full safety car is. Feel like maybe they just like wanted to make it interesting. I don't really know. Well, I'm sure they had better reasons than that, but
I did see someone analyze why Esteban was a VSC and why Kimi was a safety car. It's because of where they stopped on the track, even though it was the same corner. It's because of where they stopped, and because of that, the cars were on a different angle. So Kimi's was on the hill, and Esteban's was more at the flat bit before the hill, and he was more in the gate part where the marshals can drag the car off themselves. But
they didn't have to get the tractor out.
Yeah, so someone actually like put a clip of the marshals dragging it, and because it was coming up a hill even so slightly, the marshals, when they were pushing it off the track, one of them slipped and he actually almost like went under the wheel, like he almost got run over. And so Kimi's was a lot more up the hill, so it would have been, and the marshals wouldn't have been able to pull it that far safely under a VSC, so they had to get the train out. So that's why it was two different recoveries. Whoa, okay, balloons. Balloons for DNFs.
For the marshals.
Yeah. Great job, marshals. Good job for not getting run over by a turned off vehicle.
Yes.
But yes, so that is the explanation for why they're different.
Okay, that helps a lot, actually, because I literally had a note here that says, "Girl, what was the difference between these?" I did not know that. So that's good to know.
Then
I figured it had something to do.
It was.
Yeah,
that I saw.
Okay. Yeah, so there were a lot of stops during the VSC. Everybody did 2-stop. We talked about that. And then everybody bunches up, right? Because I believe this is the VSC. And Lando's lurking behind Oscar. And he goes, I don't know. His tires are looking pretty dead. I'm just saying it'd be shame. Like, it was so like, oh, what a convenient location for me to be is behind my teammate when his tires look bad. Man.
Yeah.
And I just like, I don't like the mind games. Say, hey, his tires look dead. If I'm faster than him, I think I should be able to go in front. Say it. I understand where you're coming from, and like the desire to like not have to say it outright.
Yeah.
Like I think that must be hard too, because I almost feel like it would be easier if McLaren picked one. Like then they would know where they stood with each other. And I like as much as they don't need to, they do. Like as much as they can let the drivers decide that for themselves, like okay, like then Oscar's in front. Like prioritize the strategy then.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know, because like we talk so much about Oscar having probably a clause in his contract / Mark Webber lurking. Mark Webber. Mark Webber, lurking in the background and just being like, hey, you know my literal son. Do you know this biological child of mine, Oscar Piastri?
He is not allowed to be number 2.
He's not a number 2 driver, or I'll kill you. Like we talk so much about that, but then when the tables are turned, like Lando's been the one who's like been on the team. Like he's been the one that's been like the common denominator in all of this. And so like he's not first, but he's not first. They're both number 1 driver. It's like a weird place for them to be from both perspectives. You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. I have a lot of thoughts, feelings, opinions on people that say that they should prioritize Lando specifically because he's been there longer. That type of shit I don't like. Because
I don't agree with that.
If you think about it in any other sports context, and you have, so in Australia, for example, our National Football League, our NRL, I think last year or the year before, there was a new team coming in called the Dolphins, right? And they've been the same however many teams for however many years. I don't actually follow this sport. But the Dolphins came in and everyone was like, yeah. no, we don't need more teams. All this shit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, but let's hypothetically say that they were really good, okay? And that they were in contention for the championship. Do you think that the fans would be like, well, actually, you need to wait because you've only this is your first season and these people have been in here a lot longer than what you have and they haven't won a championship in 12 years. So I think you should actually stop performing the way that you are and you should let them because this is your first season and they've been here longer. Like, no, get out. That is exactly how I feel with McLaren, and I know that I prefer Oscar, obviously, where that's not hidden, but I also think about this in the context of other teams that I follow, and particularly Ferrari, and I'm like, this, if it was opposite and it was Charles, would I feel different if it was my driver being pushed to the side after he'd been there for so long? I also think that if someone deserves it, they're all there to get the WDC. So as much as it sucks, I think you can't not support a driver for being competitive just because the other driver has been there longer.
Yeah. I think we're almost seeing the opposite with Mercedes. Of like, there's all of the support, and I do feel like there is something to be said about having a supportive and nurturing environment for new drivers. Like Kimi's treatment, yes. Are we doing maybe too much? Maybe. Versus like Liam Lawson or Jack Doohan. Like, oh, you get 5 races. If you suck, you're dead. I'm actually going to kill you. Like, that's what it feels like. There's no in between. But like with Mercedes, like George is objectively performing better. And it feels like there's not enough momentum or weight behind George as there is behind Kimi. And I understand he's new and I understand that there's the intent to nurture. But that also has to be balanced between like, he's simply not as good as George yet. Yeah. Maybe he'll be really great. Maybe he'll be a flash in the pan. We don't know what's happening, right? Like right now, George is doing better and there's like not enough. Whereas with McLaren, it feels like there's no decision made. Nobody's doing anything. It feels like last year, and it feels like if they keep up not being decisive, like it could slip away from them. Like I think the constructors fine, but like the WDC, like they might screw both their drivers by not choosing one. But then also it's like, at what point do you do that? Like how far of a lead? What point in the season? You know, there's so many factors. I don't want to be in charge of an F1 team. Let that be known. That feels like a lot of pressure. I don't want to do that.
It does. It does. There's a lot of variables as well that I don't think we take into account and we consider either. That because it's all behind the scenes stuff. But
I don't.
I don't think
maybe for like a day in the off season, like a weekend, when no one's working. That's the day I'll be a team principal when it doesn't matter.
This is how I would spend all my money.
Yeah. I'd go to the mall. I'd go on a vacation.
I like that. Well, I feel like every weekend we talk about the development of McLaren, especially in both championships. But back to Imola specifically.
Yes.
Max alone in the front setting fastest laps for fun. Max has talked about how boring it is at the front often. For him, but he was just whipping out fastest laps for fun.
Yeah, he didn't. He like wasn't racing anyone.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But like, I think that bodes well for Red Bull, poorly for McLaren, because if he's setting fastest laps while other people are chasing him outside of dirty air, we should be worried. We should be worried for like a Max attack, basically. Like he is. It's like Jaws and like the beginning of the theme.
Yeah.
It's the tempo is speeding up, I fear.
Yeah.
But like I also hope. I have a Max Verstappen shirt in my closet. Like I'm 100%. I want there to be a battle though. Like I don't want it to be easy. And I don't think and I think we've talked about this. I don't think Max or anybody else or anybody watching wants it. Red Bull team, conglomerate probably wants it to be in the bag and easy, but like for the sake of the sport, I don't think the fans want it to be. I don't think that the sport itself, like F1 or maybe even the FIA wants it to be. I don't think Max wants it to be. I think he gets really bored when no one's challenging him. So I think he must be having a lot of fun this season so far.
Yes.
Even if it kind of sucks to like be P4 or P5 sometimes.
Yeah, no, I have been seeing that as well, and I do agree with all of that. I think he's having a lot more fun this season than he was in, say, 2023. But oh my god, what was I going to say? Oh, can we talk about how every single driver went to the F1 movie premiere, like 2 nights ago, and Max stayed home sim racing, Bathurst of all places, Mount Panorama in an F4 car. Yeah.
Wait, is it just clickbait, or did he actually race, like change his name to Franz Hermann?
He did change his name. I don't know, because he did it to race in some circuit overseas, Germany.
He was racing a Ferrari too, which was very funny to me. But then on his sim handle, I think he also, that's what I saw, that he also updated it to that. Not to mention Daniel Ricciardo's post driving a tractor, calling it Frank Herman. Comedy. Peak also comedy.
I have really been missing Danny these past couple of weeks. I really miss him, but he has emerged on social media. He's made an appearance, full beard.
Really?
Not loving it. Not loving it.
Oh, no.
He looks typical Australian hobo, I must say. He's, from what I can gather from the various social posts I've seen, he's enjoying fun in the outback, driving tractors, you know, living up his best life. And if he's having fun and he's happy, love that. However, don't vibe with the beard. Personal preference. I'm a beard hater. But even Daniel Ricciardo doesn't escape my beard hate.
Can you send me that? I need to see it. I'll look at it after. We'll look at it after. But yeah, honestly, I feel like VCarb is trying to keep up with the fact that they've since lost like such a huge personality. That said, Isaac Hadjar, I am in love. I love him. He's got beefy biceps. I'm obsessed.
Huge biceps.
Yeah,
I'm obsessed with all of his.
They're so good at lip syncing. They're like too good, and it's like always the Kardashians too, which is so funny to me.
They did one in Imola, and it genuinely, the sound, like the voice that Liam was lip syncing to, matched him so well that I genuinely thought it was him when the video started. And he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh,
I thought it was Liam until Isaac came in. And then Isaac was like, come on, move your body. Come on, move your body.
Oh my god. Wait, yeah. I know what you're talking about. They are, I love the lip syncs. We record Thursdays in the US, Fridays in Australia, but like they've started releasing Monica stuff and it's really funny. They did one with Yuki. It was so good. Everybody go look at their, yes. It was like,
I've missed it. I'll go look.
But there's like a stutter, and so they're like lip syncing to the stutter. Where's the Oscar? Where's the Emmy? Daytime TV
they are
award. Yeah, huge. Love it. But actually, okay, speaking of Yuki, I do want to talk about this. So, I've seen a lot of chatter about like what's more impressive. Yuki P20 to P10 or Lewis Hamilton P12 to P4? Was it?
I think so. P4, P5. I think.
Let me double check.
Liam? Lewis was happy. Understandable. He was loving life. But both incredible performance from the both of them. I do think it's maybe more impressive for Lewis because
of the
going up through the bottom half of the grid where it's Haas, Alpha,
rookies.
Tauri.
Whoa. I thought you were going to say Alfa Romeo too. I was like, neither of them are on the grid.
V-carbs, steak, things like that. In a Red Bull, easy to pass. Even on a hard track. Easy to pass. And most of them are rookies. I mean, you have Alonso, you have Bortoleto, Isaac. So not a lot that are going to know exactly the track like Yuki does. So I feel like it is almost more impressive for Lewis to get up the grid through the competitive cars with a Ferrari that has not been performing very well and on a track that is not very good at overtaking. But both incredible performance.
Yeah, one thing I do love about Lewis Hamilton is how he is never one to lose an opportunity. Because I think we saw it in Miami and here, where like someone else is racing another car and he's just in the vicinity, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for holding the door. Like, actually, I don't
yeah.
mind. I'll go right through there." It's very
It
much
is
like
a
constantly through goes Hamilton.
Yes, it is a typical Hamilton move where he just kind of like
I love
lurks
it.
in the background and then he's like, all right, now's my time. Oop, I'm just going
Opportunistic.
to
That's
switch on in
exactly what you
here.
have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Max and Oscar are very much like, who will break later? I'll beat you into the corner.
Game of chicken.
I'll go around the outside. Yeah, game of
Yeah.
chicken, elbows out. Hamilton is very much like now a silent watcher. I'll play it strategically, similar to Carlos actually, where he's like, I'll just and
They're
George does
thinking.
well too,
Yeah.
where they're like, I'll wait for the right moment, and that was evident not only this weekend but also when him and Lando couldn't when Lando couldn't pass Hamilton because
Oh,
he
I was
kept
thinking about that. Yeah, because
passing him with
Lewis was just
because he
like,
was being
"Oh, I'll play the game.
yeah, he's like, all right, I'm in DRS, so thanks.
That's fine. Actually,
Yeah,
no problem. Why don't you? I'll
yeah.
just." It's like when you're at the airport and you're like on a moving walkway. That's like the only way I can describe it. And like someone's walking, you're like, "Haha, I'm faster than you."
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you ever race people like in the airport or like at the mall? I do that all the time.
I race people when I'm walking. We don't have moving walkways at my airport. I've never been on one.
What?
Yeah, I have a very small airport. You can only fly domestically from my airport. We have no
Oh,
international flights.
that's
So
crazy.
yeah,
I know. I've
and
been to
I
an
mean I've
airport
never
like
flown
that.
international anyway. So
Oh my
maybe
God.
it's
I
a
have to send you the a video of the airport in my dad's hometown in Pasto, Colombia.
mm,
It's this city, town, small. In the very so Colombia's kind of shaped like a diamond. So it's in
mm-hmm,
the south west, right by Ecuador. And this airport is on the top of a mountain, yay long, and then there's just like sheer drops on either side. Like if you're like I've been on airplanes visiting my grandmother, God rest her soul, where we've touched down and they've been like, actually, we're not going to break in time, so we're taking off again and we're going to try that again. It's crazy. So,
cool.
anyways, that airport's
That's
also this
terrifying.
big. Yeah, there's like it's like one floor. The outside is also inside. It's a whole thing. Anyways, airports aside, we can
Yep.
talk about the end of the race. Max won the race. Welcome back. F1 outro, the correct one. Not the remix, which is the Australian national anthem, but
Yep.
the original track, the Dutch
Yep.
national
Welcome back to the
anthem.
nostalgic F1
Yeah,
outro.
the one we grew up with 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so, and I know, okay, and I want to preface this with I know I love to talk about Lando's attitude. But it's in a positive lens this time. I think it's really hard
Mm,
to be in that position. So, like, I want to say, first of all, my opinion doesn't matter, and Lando should do whatever the hell he wants to do, right? Like, who am
mm,
I?
mm-hmm.
Some girl
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, whatever. But I think it was really
The world.
interesting to see the way that like certain drivers react to things, and I think it's so interesting to see the way that Lando reacts to things because he's in the spotlight now. So we just see more of him. Like people care more about what he's going to say because he is in theory this championship contender, and in practice, this championship
Mm-hmm.
contender, even if it might be
Mm-hmm.
uh, like a split across more drivers now. Like he's still in the spotlight, so we get more of his radios.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like the fact of the matter. So there's more content to interact with. But he sounded really disappointed in the car. Like he did not sound excited for P2 at all, even after like putting in hard work to get there, even after chasing, and having a good honest fight with Oscar. Like 100% Oscar's tires were
Mm.
worse. They let them race, which I was so glad for because it felt like he had been asking for
Yeah.
team orders, but in the end kind of just
Yeah.
got to do it clean straight up and down. But it kind of felt like
Yeah.
Oscar was also shot in the foot because of the McLaren strategy. I have a weird feeling about all of it. Like it just kind of sucks because I like Oscar more than Lando. But I think
Yeah.
once Lando was like out of the car and like actually being interviewed, I think
Mm.
someone's been working with him on media training maybe because he it felt more like what the other media training we've seen feels like of like,
Yeah.
that's all we could give it today. we're going to have a good attitude and like explain things in a way that makes them feel like there is hope. Unless you're Charles Leclerc being asked if he has hope for Monaco, he just says nope and walks away. I don't know if you've seen that clip. Yeah, I'll cry.
I haven't.
Don't talk to me about it. Actually, I'm not emotionally prepared.
Send that to me because I want to see it. I fell asleep. I fell asleep just before Kimi DNF'd, and then I woke up by hearing, "Oh, Kimi Antonelli," and me and my sister went, "What?" And my sister, big Kimi fan, big Kimi fan, she said, "I'm going to bed." And so and then watched his DNF, fell back asleep, woke up to Max crossing the finish line, and then I said, okay, and I turned it off. So I actually haven't heard any of the post-race interviews or anything that happened post-race, cool-down room, nothing. I was sound asleep while that was happening. So this is interesting to me, that he seems a little bit better at expressing his feelings in a more neutral,
media trained way, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so tough, I think, with F1 and the mentality that a driver has to have to like make it. Like, the sport is so cutthroat. You have to think that either you win or you lose. Like, P2, I feel like will never be good enough for these drivers. And it's tough because I see it with Charles too, and he's my favorite driver. Of like, yeah, we could only do P4. And I'm like, go say that to Ollie Behrman's face. Like, only?
Yeah.
You know, like, to get that close to the podium for any of these other teams is like something that's, they dream. So it's really tough because everything is within its own perspective, which has been interesting too, to see like Carlos Sainz make mental adjustments too. And I think F1 TV was talking about this as well. Like, this is not an original thought of mine, but of like picking your battles, and you know, this weekend realizing that Williams can pick battles with a team like Ferrari. You know, they are the 5th best team right now, and Ferrari is probably the 4th best team, to be frank, which I like. I love saying that and I hate saying that because I'm fans of both. So
two sides.
It's just so interesting, the perspectives, and because like all of them on the grid think they can and will be world champion. Like, you have to go in thinking that way to remotely succeed in the sport, to remotely be able to go weekend after weekend. Like, why are you there if you're got, like, someone has to be last. Someone has to be last. That's how the places work. You have to like definitely have that mental perspective and like hold fast to it too, which has got to be exhausting. Like, that's gotta be mentally tough.
Yeah, I think it's got to be hard with these drivers being so, knowing that they're so strong enough to be in F1, but also being accepting enough to understand that, like, that's kind of the best that they're going to get. Like, for each driver, they're achieving is the best that they're going to get for the most part. You know, it's not, I am holding out for the day, and I really, really, really hope it happens at Monaco. I am holding out for the day that Alex Albon gets on that podium. I am praying that happens this season because all of the drivers deserve it, but he deserves it so much. And I think can really see how hard he's been working this season. Obviously, being that Williams is 5th in the championship, that's not just been done by Carlos alone. No. Alex has also been pulling such a humongous weight, and he battled 4th for almost the whole race. But, you know, it's got to be hard, especially for people like Pierre, that is super close with Charles and has seen Charles achieve all of this with Ferrari and X amount of podiums and wins and, you know, being in a contentious fight for the World DC in 2019 through to 2021. That's got to be hard to see your essentially best friend and person that you've raced against for your whole life,
your whole life,
what you want to achieve purely based on the cards that they were dealt in the team that they were, you know, brought in by.
That makes me want to talk a lot about Nico Hülkenberg. I would have quit. I would have quit. I would have said, you know what? I'll go find something else I can be number one at. I have so much respect for him because he is one of two fathers, right? Like, it's just him and Max. He is, like, I have trouble with it, and I'm not even an F1 driver. Seeing children have points in the Formula One championship. Where are my points? I'm gonna be 28.
Well,
where are my points? Where are my forts? I'm the same age. I'm the same age as Max. Where are my championships? You know?
See, this is similar to what I was saying, though, about McLaren and Lando and Oscar.
Like age being like a tenure.
And age and experience translating to what you deserve in the sport. And I understand that to an extent, the more tenured drivers have an expectation, but Max didn't come in and achieve all of these records and break everyone's record just because he was up against 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. Because he was younger and he wasn't a world champion. He didn't do that. Like, we can't, as shitty as it is for the driver, but I don't think that tenure and age can really be a factor too much in success in F1.
And, like, deciding who to back. Yeah, 100%. Like, I think it's the data. And I hope that Audi gives Nico Hülkenberg a platform to do something before he thinks about retiring. Like, it's got to be a tough, like, tempo to maintain this lifestyle. I couldn't do it. I would love to do it, actually. I take that back. I would love to do it. But I do think it would be so incredibly strenuous.
Like, it would,
on everything.
It would.
I was seeing who posted it today. I think it was Ruth Buscombe posted on her story. Like, her friend helps, like, as maybe like a travel manager. I don't know what he does, but she was like shouting him out because he had given her like a day-by-day schedule of what to do, how to like manage like natural light so that she didn't get jet lagged on all of the traveling she was doing. Like, to think that far, it was like 1 day in advance. It was like, this day before you need to do these things, and then while you're flying you need to do this, and the next day do that.
That's incredible.
Like, that's a lot. Like, I'm sure it's changing the game for jet lag, but like that, to like go through that's a lot.
Yeah definitely. I guess on that, I mean, that sort of recaps everything that is in our notes, except for maybe the cool down room.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine for a minute there. When they walk in, they like cut to the cool down room, and I think Oscar's just sitting there like this, just waiting and watching the recaps. I was like, yep, that is my, however old, he's like 20, what, 21, 22? That's my 22-year-old grandfather, actually. Yeah, he's going to the retirement home next year.
He is. Yeah. Oh, Oscar. Well, starting today, FP1 for Monaco is in, like, I don't know, T-minus 9-10 hours or something.
Let me get the exact timing as of recording. I mean, by the time it's posted, it's not going to matter. 10 hours, 34 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Yeah, there we go. So we're going to start watching that. And everyone can enjoy Monaco this weekend. You'll be asleep?
Yeah.
What time will it be for you?
In 10 hours? It's 7 p.m.
But what time will that be? Won't that be like 7 a.m.?
No, 5. 5 a.m.
Oh.
I think I'll be asleep, probably. I don't think I'm waking up for that.
It'll be 9:30 p.m. for me, so I think I will be awake.
Beautiful.
The race is at 11, which is the same time as what Imola was, and I genuinely was asleep by about 12:15. So we'll see.
Well, best of luck to all of the drivers in Monaco, but specifically best of luck to Charles Leclerc. Actually, everybody gets good luck, but the best of luck to Charles Leclerc. Yeah. Little tiny hand parts. Maybe a little one of these. Totally. Call it delusion.
Especially because the home races for this year have not gone particularly well for the drivers.
Why would you remind
Oscar me? Have not had a great run, so I don't want to put it into the existence. However, let's hope
there was a curse.
Not...
There was a curse and we broke it. Everybody put good at it. Let's all join hands and do a little prayer circle, a little witch circle. I'll light a candle. I don't care.
Yep.
I'll light 2 candles.
Thoughts and prayers
Yes.
for Charles in Monaco, and hopefully, considering he broke the Monaco curse last year, hopefully the home race curse of 2025 does not trickle down to Charles, and he also breaks that this year, because we also go to Spain next week, and I don't want anything to happen to Carlos. So
yeah, no, I'm afraid now. It'll be good. It'll be beautiful regardless.
Well, I think it'll be, if it, again, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, Silverstone is going to be very dramatic.
Goodness gracious.
You know,
everybody put out whatever energy. Put out chaos energy if you want. I don't know at this point. I'm just along for the ride. I'm putting my seatbelt on and I'm here for these hot laps.
I'm just a silent watcher at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will see y'all later.
Bye.